What is a life hack that doesn't require you to do anything new? Just change the order in which you are already doing something. Story 1. Putting all of my empty clothes hangers in one spot in my closet. I used to just pull my shirts off the hangers and leave it where it was. So I'd end up with a bunch of empty hangers taking up space, and I would have to search for them when I was putting laundry away. Now I take the hanger off the rod, take the shirt off the hanger, and put the hanger in the bottom left corner of my closet. It was such a small change. I can't believe I wasn't always doing this. Story 2. When you are trying to buy new clothes and you are discouraged, recently lost or gained weight, had a baby, etc., find the ugliest thing in the store and try it on. Congratulations, you just saw the worst you could possibly look. Everything else will look better on you. I recommend this for everyone. Story 3. Some people love the flush while you pee life hack. For males only, I'm assuming. Flush when you're about 75 done peeing, so when you're done, you can just walk away. But to me, it just seems kind of silly. Story 4. Set out your work clothes for the next day before you go to bed instead of figuring it out in the morning. Well, make sure you're always put together, and if something is missing or dirty, you'll know with enough time to take care of it as opposed to when you wake up and don't have the time. Story 5. It changed a bit, but almost the same. I love French fries, and I kind of want to eat them every meal, but I can't. So every time I want to eat potatoes, I make them a bit different. First, I boiled them. Then I put all the boiled potatoes on a board with the aluminum foil, and I seasoned the potatoes with salt and oregano, and I put them in the oven where I let them be a bit burned. Tastes almost the same as French fries, but it's a lot healthier because there is no oil used to fry the potatoes. Story 6. Do your laundry before any other chore. While the machine is running, you're technically doing multiple chores at once. Answer. Laundry is the easiest chore in the world. I've heard people complain about it, and I don't get it. My sister used to let the laundry pile up for weeks, but because she had so many hand-me-down outfits for her kids, she didn't run out. She would do a single load when she got desperate. I never understood it. When the laundry basket is full, put the contents in the machine, press a button, walk away. It's so easy, it's ridiculous. After the machines are done, go ahead and sit on your jerk and watch TV while folding. Story 7. When writing an email, add the destination address at the last moment. That way you never send an incomplete email. Story 8. When you wash your face, wet your face with warm water, then scrub and rinse with cold water. The cold water helps close your pores so you don't immediately get your face gross again. Also exfoliate before you shave. The roughness loosens the hair a little, and it can help with ingrown hairs. Story 9. Set a time before bed. When electronics go off, I try to aim for 30 minutes or an hour before bed. What a difference. That blue light is terrible. Story 10. For me, it's doing chores as soon as I get home from work. If I decide to rest first, I never get back up and do it. Then it all piles up, and a simple task like cleaning the litter box or washing a few dishes turns into a bigger and bigger job until I end up spending my whole day off cleaning my house. Story 11. You can make a tastier, less watery box of Kraft mac and cheese by combining the butter, cheese powder, and milk together in a separate saucepan, cooking it into a cheese sauce, then mixing it with the cooked noodles. Story 12. I unload the dishwasher in the morning while my coffee is brewing. It's my most disliked task, but for some reason my brain can't object too much when I'm half asleep. The timing is perfect. I start the coffee pot, and by the time I'm done with the dishes, the pot is ready. I also do this when I take a shower. It takes a few minutes for my shower to get hot. While it's warming up, I cycle the laundry and feed the cats. The cats' food and dish are kept in the laundry room. As I shower daily, it's a good way to remember to feed the animals. The real benefit is that I want to take the shower, so the emotion is one of happy anticipation instead of cynical boredom while doing the mundane job. I guess the life hack is to do a mundane task while taking advantage of a waiting period while doing something you want to do. This one is a literal lifesaver for my morning brain. If an object isn't sitting directly in my path to the exit, it basically doesn't exist in my world. I've actually started putting my car keys inside my shoes just to be absolutely certain I don't leave the house without them. Story 13. Sort your silverware when you put it in the dishwasher. When you empty it, you grab a handful of forks or spoons instead of having to sort it as you put it away. Story 14. When you have a big cleaning job, rather than starting at one end, start by type, all the trash first, clothes next, etc. Moving around the room so much will help you feel the progress you're making, And each new task done makes the room area as a whole look nicer than when you started. So it's easier. Story 15. Keeping pop, cookies, or candy in the house makes me more likely not to want to eat any. It's actually easier to resist temptation when it's readily accessible than when it's not. Story 16. From my dentist, floss before brushing makes brushing more effective and has made my mouth feel cleaner. Everything gets cleaned out with the brushing that would have just been left otherwise. Story 17. I learned this from my internet friends, but pouring the creamer before the coffee. Life changer. Coffee mixes itself and you save on the stirrer. Story 18. 1. Receive paycheck. 2. Pay the bills. 3. Buy groceries. 4. Decide how much of the remaining you spend on recreational activities. Not all, duh. 5. Keep the rest for emergencies. Set a minimum that must always end up in savings jar. That way you will end up accumulating money to use in case something bad happens and need some extra cash, or you just want to go on that trip you always wanted. Also, cooking at home instead of ordering or eating out is way more cheaper. Story 19. If you're doing knowledge work, start the heavy thinking task first thing in the morning. Later, when you're tired, you'll have a better grasp and understanding than if you'd started later or while tired. Story 20. Writing an outline. After you write your rough draft actually really helps you see whether or not you've answered the questions you needed to answer and whether or not your paragraphs, chapters are in the right order. Story 21. Back into parking places. You are more inclined to be mindful arriving than leaving. Might save a life. Story 22. Getting strange dark spots on your clothes from washing them? Put the soap in the washing machine with the water before you put the clothes in. It stops detergent stains from happening. Similarly, if you're trying to dilute wasabi with soy sauce, start by putting like 3 drops on the wasabi, work it into a smooth paste, then add more soy sauce. It'll stop it from being chunky. Story 23. You're probably tying your shoes wrong. Watch the video I linked, and you'll see that there's one step most people get wrong, but if you do it the right way, your shoes will very rarely come undone. Story 24. I recently found out I dislike washing dishes because sometimes food would get stuck in my nails. So I bought myself some cleaning gloves, like the normal rubber ones that go halfway up your forearm. I don't know if that's normal to other people, but I was raised to always wash the dishes with my bare hands, and I prefer doing it with gloves, under TBH. Story 25. Cupcakes. Simply peel the paper, cut it in half, and make it a sandwich. Reason to do this is to stop wasting the bottom. Story 26. Put in the coffee before you put in the cream. That way you don't have to stir the coffee into your cream. Story 27. Pour your cream in before your coffee and it will mix itself. No spoon needed. Edit. Also pour your coffee into the cup from at least a foot or 2 up in the air. This will froth the coffee cream mixture and give your drink a nice latte-esque foam on top. Do it over the sink until your aim becomes great. Story 28. Add coffee to your milk, not milk to your coffee. Your coffee will stay hotter for longer, so about 10 minutes. Story 29. Brush your teeth before you shower. The warm shower relaxes you. Doing anything after seems like a bigger drag. Story 30. Shoot, then shower, then shave. Too often I shoot after I shower, and then the bathroom smells something awful when I'm getting ready. Story 31. Empty the bottom rack of the dishwasher first so the water trapped on the top rack doesn't get your dry dishes wet. Story 32. Chores go by much easier if you set rewards for yourself. If I clean the dishes, I'll make myself a coffee, then I'll tackle the laundry and spend 10 minutes on Reddit. Once I got into this mentality, housework wasn't nearly so horrible. Story 33. As soon as you get paid, pay all of your bills, at least the ones that are due before your next paycheck, but extra points for paying bills ahead of schedule. Also fill up your car, get your groceries and such on that first day you've been paid. That way, you know where you stand with your bills and that you've set yourself up for success each pay period. Story 34. When emptying a bag of chips into a bowl, open it from the bottom so the full chips are at the top of the bowl and the small pieces are at the bottom. Story 35. It's not quite like coffee and milk, but it's similar. When making cereal, go cereal then milk, and don't put a spoon in, otherwise it can splash out of the bowl. Story 36. Dust the shelves and tchotchkes before vacuuming. If you start at the top and work your way down, you're not knocking dirt onto something you've already cleaned. Story 37. This is banking on the fact that my country has bidets on most homes as standard. Usually people poop and then use the bidet. I use the bidet and then poop. Poop comes out pretty much clean, takes way less effort to get it out, and the wipes come out almost clean most of the time, sometimes coming out fully clean. Story 38. When washing your car, start on the roof and generally work your way down. Otherwise, you will end up needing to rewash the side of your car. Story 39. In a public restroom, if there is a paper towel dispenser, dispense the towel first so you don't have to touch the lever after you wash your hands. Story 40. Also, one other thing I forgot in my original comment. Anything that is important to you, don't put it on the moving van just in case the movers steal, lose, or break anything. When I moved, I had one box of things like my tax paperwork for that year, family photos I couldn't make copies of, and a couple of things that belonged to my late brother that my sister-in-law gave me when he died, one of his shirts and one of his work awards. I've done bigger cross-country moves and had half of my stuff go missing. Luckily, the things that were important were with me. Answer. This has been my policy every move. The movers can load up the furniture in boxes, books, DVDs, kitchen stuff, bathroom stuff, etc., but only I touch my computer and its components and other electronics, TV, DVD player, etc. I will find a way to load them all, plus my pets, into the car, regardless of its size. If I have to motherfucking Tetris everything, I will. Story 41. Have a morning evening routine. This will help you save time and be more relaxed and get your mind in gear. Also helps make sure you don't forget doing something important. Story 42. Don't make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Make jelly and peanut butter sandwiches. If you do the peanut butter first, then you are more likely to just throw the knife in the sink and get a new one for the jelly. I've seen it a million times, and it infuriates me because if you just do the jelly first, the knife can be easily cleaned and reused. Story 43. I'm really bad to just sort of drop stuff where I drop it. It's an ADHD thing, I think. It's really hard for me to remember in the moment to get my jerk up and go over to the trash can or to put stuff in a specific hamper. So instead of deciding where trash can shampers ought to go and then going to them, my husband has watched me for a week or two when we move into a new place to see where I tend to drop things and just put hampers trash cans in those places. Keeps the place much cleaner. Short version, don't decide where disposals, storage bins should go. Put them where you tend to leave things in the first place. I used to struggle with stubborn jars for years until I learned this trick. There is something incredibly satisfying about hearing that little pop sound when the pressure finally releases. It makes me feel like I have a hidden superpower, even if it's just for opening a jar of pickles. Story 44. Simple hack. Don't cover your toothbrush completely with toothpaste. It's the problem with advertising. Toothpaste companies would advertise the toothpaste covering the whole toothbrush, therefore making you run out of toothpaste quicker and having to go back to the store and buy more toothpaste, which makes the company more money. Realistically, you only need about a pea-sized amount of toothpaste. Story 45. Wake up and get out of bed and start doing the things you don't generally want to do in the day while you're still asleep. Fill or empty the dishwasher, empty the litter box, clean the kitchen or living room to deal with any general cleaning. You'll get all the things you don't want to deal with taken care of while you're half asleep. It will also help wake you up. After 10-15 minutes, you'll be awake from the activity and have all the stuff you don't want to deal with taken care of. Story 46. When hanging your socks out to dry, keep a space between each sock so you can put the pair next to it. Saves time when I'm in a rush trying to find sock or simply pairing up when they are dry. Story 47. Floss before you brush. Also, wet your hair before you go into the pool. Saturating your hair with water will make it harder for the pool water to wreck your hair. Also, water still gets into most swim caps, especially if you have long hair, since the volume prevents the cap from having a tight seal with your head. So do this when you're wearing one anyway. Story 48. Pay your credit cards when you get your paycheck or as early as possible. Don't wait until the cards are due. Of 10, if you can't pay it off right ways, you will make a much larger dent in the bill. Story 49. Leave dishes in the sink at night. When I start the coffee pot in the morning, I have to clean the kitchen up until the time coffee is ready. I almost always have the whole kitchen clean by then. Story 50. Charge your wireless headphones after the gym each time. Then you'll avoid the situation of wanting to go to the gym but hanging around until the headphones are charged. Story 51. So I usually have a bowl of oatmeal and a cup of tea for breakfast. I start by putting the kettle on for the tea. I put enough in for the tea plus the oatmeal. When I pour the water for my tea, I measure out 240 ml of it for my oatmeal and pour it, now preheated, into the saucepan to cook my oatmeal in. That way I don't have to wait as long for the water to boil because it just was boiling a moment ago. Tea is steeped just a little before the oatmeal is ready, And by the time I've pulled the tea bag out, the oatmeal is perfect. On a side note, I keep a stack of containers in the cupboard that I make up every Sunday night, which have oatmeal and all of the dry ingredients I put into it already measured. So all I have to do is dump the lot into the boiling water and cook it. Story 52. Life hack for making coffee. First, you put the sugar in the cup, then an inch of coffee, swirl it around to dissolve, then add cream or milk, then add the rest of the coffee. You don't need to stir your coffee now because it just stirred itself. Story 53. Pay your bills first. Include a savings deposit. I do like 30 a week. Then spend the remainder on leisure. Story 54. If you have to cross a street diagonally, hit the crosswalk button to walk one way before crossing the other way, and when you get to the other side, the light will turn and you can cross again. Much more efficient than crossing the street and only then hitting the next button. Story 55. Floss before brushing your teeth. Knock out or losses the big pieces of junk in your teeth. Then brush it all away. Also, don't rinse the paste out of your mouth. Let it continue to work and also leaves your mouth feeling fresh longer. Story 56. Leave the toilet seat in the last state. 5,050 chance it will already be in the position you need it on the next visit. Story 57. When making a pizza, put the tomato on top on the cheese. Stops cheese from burning and the base going soggy. Story 58. When I'm feeling lazy as I'm getting dressed, sitting down, I put my jeans on around my ankles, then sock shoe, then stand up and put my pants on. Only requires me to move each leg once and only stand up once. Answer, you know how sometimes you have these internal quirks that cross your mind every single time you do something, just because you saw something about it once? Well, I saw this tweet I thought was funny. It said, do you guys do sock, shoe, or sock, shoe? And someone responded, what kind of sociopath does sock, shoe? Which, going by the general reaction to and virality of the image, is apparently not the prevailing method. But one day I mentioned to my boyfriend that ever since seeing this tweet, which I then described to him, I couldn't put on my socks and shoes without thinking about the word sociopath in all caps. About 2 weeks later, he turned to me and asked, so wait, do you do sock, shoe, or sock, shoe? And I responded with something like, obviously sock, shoe. I'm not I gotta say it, sociopath. And he said that ever since I mentioned this tweet, he'd given it a lot of thought and realized that doing sock, shoe meant he was only lifting each leg once. TLDR, I'm dating a sociopath. This is a professional move that more people need to master. There's a very fine line between a perfectly cooked meal and a burnt disaster. And knowing how to stop the cooking process instantly is the key to not ruining your dinner. It's all about controlling the heat, not letting it control you. Story 59. If a task takes less than 10 minutes replying to a message, putting clean clothes away, etc., then do it straight away. Otherwise, you'll soon end up with a clothes mountain to clear. Story 60. When washing dishes by hand, wash the big dishes first. The pile of dirty dishes shrinks at a faster rate and makes you feel more productive. Story 61. Put together your outfit for the next day the night before. Doesn't matter if it is super simple or super fancy. It's the process of putting the effort and the thoughtfulness in future you that is part of the self-care. Story 62. Start drinking black coffee. That way you don't need to worry about the order you add stuff. Darn Big Dairy's got to everyone here. Story 63. When making your creamer in the morning, put the coffee in the cup first. This way you mix the lie that you actually like coffee in without making a dirty spoon. Story 64. Slicing meat across the grain against direction of the little lines you see on, say, a roast, instead of with grain going with the lines, gives you a more tender bite. Story 65. If anyone reading this uses an AeroPress, instead of following the instructions and having it sitting on your mug while you pour the water in and trying to make a vacuum with a plunger, making a mess, try this. Assemble plunger and tube together in the extended position, resting upside down on a flat surface on the plunger part. Add coffee and or in water, stir, etc. Then screw the lid and filter on. Invert onto your mug, then press. So much cleaner and easier. Story 66. Clean while you cook. It's easy to rack up multiple dishes and utensils by the end of making a dish. Rinsing while you cook helps eliminate the big cleanup at the end. Story 67. Remove all electronics from your sleeping area. E-readers too. You'll fall asleep faster, on time, and your sleep quality will skyrocket. Buy a cheap alarm clock, install batteries so you don't oversleep if the power goes out, and set it up as far away from your bed as possible, either on the other side of the room or in a different room altogether. When it goes off, you're much more likely to stay up if you're already up and walking around. Or just do like me and get a cat who will wake you up an hour and a half early every single morning because she wants to be fed. Story 68. Workplace coffee. Put the cream and sugar in first. When you pour in the coffee, it'll stir itself. Minor convenience, but also means you don't have to stick a stir stick from a box that people have been pawing through with questionably clean hands all day. Story 69. If you put spoons in your creamer, then add the cream spoons to your coffee will stir itself. Story 70. When I want to change the order in which I do things, I usually just change the order of which I do things. I know, sounds crazy, but it works. Story 71. When going to wash dishes or load them into the dishwasher, always go around the house apartment and gather every dirty dish and put them on the counter by the dishwasher. The old pots that are on the stove, bring those over. Everything. Too many times I've washed dishes, thought I was done, and then turned around to see a pile behind me. Story 72. Plant a fruit tree today instead of living in a house for 10 years, then saying, man, I wish I planted a fruit tree 10 years ago. Not going to stay there forever. Fruit trees are a huge selling feature of a house and will almost certainly get you more on the sale price of the house than the $25 you spent on the tree. If you look in my post history, you can see my place and how much I have transformed it. Not your house, renting it. Look what you can grow in pots. Make your mistakes and learn from them today so that one day if you move, you not only will already have learned a ton, but you will also potentially bring a nice potted tree with you ready to plant in its final home. Either way, planting a tree today, even all those points aside, is just a really rad thing you can do for the planet and the bees, and it will give you something to look forward to watching grow, a reason to wake up and get out of bed and see that first peach on your peach tree. Answer, my sister-in-law planted half a dozen different fruit trees as the first thing they did when they bought his house. Not only did it save them money on groceries eventually, but they scored an extra tank on the house when it sold. The new buyer had been looking for a property that had room for them and was ecstatic to find one with established trees. Other people were going to rip them out for more yard space, even though it had plenty already. SMH, Story 73. Brush your teeth in the shower. It sounds psycho, but once you've gotten used to it, you will never want to go back. Story 74. Shower at night rather than in the morning. You get to be fresh and clean in the sheets, and you can get out of the house quickly in the morning. Story 75. This reminds me of an article I read years ago, some 20-something rich kid writing about how he was living his retirement years early, essentially taking a 20-year vacation. Then he would join the workforce in his late 30s. He was acting like he discovered some big secret and legitimately wondering why more people don't do it that way. Story 76. Washing dishes immediately after using them results in a kitchen that never has dishes sitting in it. Boost in serotonin levels from simply change the sequencing of washing your dishes and the other stuff you do with your time. Story 77. 1. Cook pizza. 2. Eat pizza. 3. Pass out instead of 1. Cook pizza. 2. Pass out. 3. Air out house for 10 days. Story 78. If you have a slow person in your house, tell them be ready at 4:45 instead. 5. My mom would do that to my dad and I. It worked. Story 79. When you have trouble concentrating on your PC, try making another user account on your computer just for work. Install only the programs you really need on there and only log in on sites related to work. This helped me pretty well trying to focus on schoolwork because I often caught myself on Discord, Facebook, or YouTube. Story 80. When setting out a potluck, put the plates at the start, naturally, but put the cutlery and napkins at the end. Then you don't have to juggle it all in your hands while trying to dish out food. Story 81. Start packing bags for a holiday vacation a few days before you go. It gives you time to make sure you have everything you need and also takes away from the stress of having to pack everything at once. Story 82. Choose your clothing for work or school the night before instead of the morning of. I know most guys have a uniform they wear most days, so not much of an issue for them. But for me, as a lady, it helps. Pick out the outfit. Make sure all the pieces are clean and ready. Pick out accessories and shoes. Get the work bag together. Lay it all on a chair, and you're good to go. Maximize sleeping in time and no morning freakouts. That the only clean tights you have don't match the only clean dress, or that your best shirt has a mustard stain that you forgot about. Story 83. Completely tear out in the middle of the toilet seat liner before you put it down. This will prevent it from falling in from getting wet or getting flushed with the automatic flushing toilets. Story 84. Clean as you go when making a meal. It is so much more enjoyable to eat knowing you don't have to wash dishes after. Story 85. My dentist told me to floss first, brush after. Sure enough, my mouth tastes better. For long hair, can add conditioner to the ends, then add shampoo by the roots and rinse it all out simultaneously. I also like to wash my back after all this to get the conditioner residue off. Story 86. Don't brush your teeth after every meal. That's when your enamel is the weakest. Just wait a few hours. Brush then. Story 87. When you're leaving your place to go somewhere, check your pockets for essential items. Keys, wallet, phone, etc. immediately before walking out the door, instead of an hour and a half afterwards when you're wondering why your pockets are so light. Story 88. Push the close door button in the elevator before the floor button. It'll save you a fraction of a second. Story 89. Playing an instrument, a brass one to be exact. Trombone, baritone, euphonium. Playing too high, make your lips slow down. Playing too low, make your lips speed up. Story 90. If you go to the gym at all throughout the day, try shifting your schedule so that you can go to the gym at the beginning of the day. Wakes you up and makes the day more bearable. Story 91. When cooking, clean up as you go. Mix something in a bowl and now it's simmering for 5 minutes. Use that time to wash the bowl, spoon, knife, cutting board, whatever you used, and put away any ingredients you're done with. It makes cleanup once you finished eating so much easier. Story 92. If you are planning to do something the next day, the night before, do some prep work for it. Back your gym bag the night before so you don't have to think about it the next day. It solves so many issues. Need information for a meeting the next morning. Spend 15 minutes getting it together the night before. I use a 15-minute rule. When I was 19, I worked for a local screen print tinting shop. Depending on orders and workflow, we would spend the last 15 minutes of work setting up for the next day, so that when we arrived, we could just start off rolling. It helps so fudge much. I encourage that type of work behavior. If your job shifts to another person, if each of you spend 15 minutes to make the next person's job easier, do it. It makes the workspace such a better place to be in. Story 93. Wait to take your morning shoot till you get to work. Ain't nothing like getting paid to drop a deuce. Story 94. Making cold chocolate milk with powdered chocolate. The trick I've found is to put a little milk in the glass first, then the powder. Stir that up and then top with more cold milk. No clumps of undissolved powder at the bottom, and the chocolate is distributed through the whole glass. Answer. In culinary arts, where everything has a name, this is called a slurry. Originally, a slurry was made from flour and water, exactly the way you described. Add a small amount of liquid to a powder which tends to form lumps, stirring constantly until a paste is formed. Lumps don't get a chance to lump. They get mashed into the paste. Then more liquid can be added while still stirring until the desired result is achieved. For you, it's a glass of cold chocolate milk with no lumps. For the original flour and water slurry, that mixture is slowly poured into a hot pot of sauce, soup, stew, gravy, etc., where the flour acts as a thickening agent, and that's how you get a nice thick gravy with no lumps. In culinary terms, slurry has become known as the mixing of a liquid and powder, using this method beyond just flour and water. I've seen it used in other professions industries as well. It's just such a handy little thing to know about and use. One of my hobbies is making body care products, and when I'm working with shimmer powders or powder dye, I always make a slurry with them first and then thin them out before adding to, say, a batch of soap. It's these tiny adjustments to our habits that make the biggest difference in our daily flow. Once you train your muscle memory to slide your phone into your pocket upside down, you'll never go back. It feels so much more natural and efficient when you need to check a notification quickly. Story 95. Intermittent fasting. I essentially consume the same amount of calories now, minus the late-night junk food, but just consume them within certain time windows during the day. Has been great for slimming down, having more energy, and most importantly for me, getting a good night's rest. Story 96. Water before soap. Soap is generally a molecule with one hydrophilic end and one hydrophobic end. When in water, if the soap is between water and whatever dirt or grime, and it will sort of lift away that stuff into the water. If you got dirty and caked yourself in soap, you'd just be soapy and dirty, not clean. Story 97. Eat right before you go grocery shopping, so you're thinking with your brain instead of your hungry stomach. Story 98. When making your cup of coffee, put your sugar bun cream and stuff in first, then pour into the hot coffee. It requires little to no stirring and even comes out a bit smoother. Story 99. Budget an amount for saving each time you're paid and don't allow yourself to spend it. I'm doing this to save for grad school, and the more I save, the less stress I have with money. It's made me much happier and less worried about everything. Story 100. Set apart a fixed sum at the beginning of each month as saving and then spend the remaining of the salary instead of spending the salary and then saving what remains at the end of the month. Story 101. As soon as you're done cooking, making something, clean the dishes before you eat. Motivates you to do it quickly and cuts down your workload so you don't have a huge pile of dishes at the end of every day. Story 102. Milk first, then cereal. The initial confusion will stimulate your brain better than coffee. You'll also eat less if you're looking to cut back calories. Story 103. Not totally sure what OP means by not doing anything new, but as to changing the order, put what's in your brain on paper. I guess that would be the new, maybe? Want to buy a farm? Write it all down, the places you call, the questions you want to ask, etc. Do this with anything big, new apartment, new job, moving further away, etc. Just write it down. Your thoughts, feelings, fears, list tons of questions you want answered, etc. I've found for my own brain, it wants to multitask way too much, and I end up feeling stupid or overwhelmed, but if I slow it down and write it out, I'm golden. Story 104. If you are losing motivation, just start jumping as fast as you or even running. It gives you a huge amount of energy and then do whatever you want to do. Story 105. When you find something after being lost, put it in the first place you looked. It's probably just common sense, but that has saved my life hundreds of times. Story 106. When tying your shoes, you either tie a square knot or a granny knot. The square knot holds a lot better. If the bow goes across the shoe, it's a square knot. If the bow runs up and down the shoe, it's a granny knot. It all starts when you make the first tie of the shoe. If you have the granny knot, simply change the way you make that first move. If you use right over left, change to left over right instead. I didn't figure this out until my 40s. It's a simple change, but took me a while to do it naturally. Tying a shoe had become such a habit with no thinking involved. Took a while to develop the new habit. Edit. As pointed out below, there is another method to make the change. Do the first part right over left or left over right, as you always do. Then you can change the direction that you make the first bow. If you normally wrap the bow by looping over the top, change to looping under the bow. A video is posted below. Either way works. I just found it easier to change the first step. Others disagree. See which works better for you. Story 107. Brush your teeth after taking a shower. Rinse your mouth while taking the shower. My mouth feels double clean after I brush my teeth after the shower cleaning. Story 108. Brush your teeth in the shower. The most pleasant part of waking up, especially if, like me, you are not a morning person, is taking a nice hot shower. You have to brush your teeth anyway, so doing it in the shower allows you to extend the most pleasant component of your morning routine without costing you additional time. Story 109. Organize your keyring according to the sequence you most frequently use them, e.g., apartment key, common area key, garage key, car key, office key, mailbox key. Story 110. If you have greasy hair, conditioner before shampooing really decreases the a pint of grease hair produces. Story 111. If your shoelaces have granny knots and are not perpendicular to your shoes, flopping down the sides, reverse your starter knot. If it is right over left, make them left over right or vice versa. They will drop to the sides and will actually stay tied much longer. Story 112. Don't step over anything. See that sock that fell out of the washing basket? Or the empty toilet roll that got left on the floor? Don't step over them and leave them for your wife, husband, roommate to pick up. Take the 5 seconds it takes to deal with it and move on with your day. You'll feel better. Story 113. For me, it was just learning to organize where I put things in my pockets. For years, I was notorious for losing track of items, especially things I already put in my pockets, and I'd panic as I couldn't find them. So now I'm organized into the following. 1. My car keys go in my left front pocket because they are the one thing I typically need the most, but I normally carry something in my right hand. 2. My wallet goes in my right front pocket for 2 reasons. A, more secure to protect it from being stolen. B, because I drive up to 300 miles in a day, and sitting on it in my back pocket was causing stress on my hip and back and impacting my posture and driving. 3. My phone goes in my left rear pocket when I'm not using it, because again, I'm usually holding something in my right hand. 4. My utility knife in my back right pocket, because my job frequently requires me to have one in order to open boxes, packages, and envelopes. This shift now has me so organized that I instantly know when I don't have one of those items in my pockets because I know how it feels ways. Nothing ruins a mood faster than losing the end of the tape and spending 10 minutes scratching at it with your fingernails like a cat. This simple hack turns a frustrating chore into something surprisingly smooth. It's a small victory against one of life's most annoying minor inconveniences. Story 114. Put in the creamer, then let the Keurig new the coffee. Mixes it all up for you. Work got big, industrial-sized Keurigs. I just drink coffee with some creamer. Still probably have to stir if you use sugar, but it's one less step for me. Story 115. When you're feeling stuck on your to-do list, try reordering what you will do and when. It's like breaking a logjam. It's often better to start with a few easy items rather than the really intimidating ones. Or do a few that take just a few minutes to get the feeling of progress. Story 116. Get a sleep schedule. I'm 25 and only just realized it's possible to wake up well-rested. I was always tired in the morning, as if I only slept for like an hour when I actually slept for like 8-9 hours. With a sleep schedule, I came to the realization that it's possible to feel awake in the morning and actually not have the addictive urge to put your head back down and close your eyes. Story 117. Condition your hair, then shampoo it. Don't come all up in here telling me why this is wrong. Just go and fudge try it. Story 118. Eat something before you go grocery shopping. It'll significantly increase your resistance to unintended candy purchases. Story 119. Not get a partner, then feel great about yourself. Rather feel great about yourself and then find a partner. It's way easier and the relationship is way healthier. I know it's not always easy to feel good about yourself, but there are ways. Wake up earlier, exercise, improve in your field of work, etc. Story 120. This is gonna sound weird, but I used to get really bad gas, and I'd take a pill that never seemed to work, and then I'd end up curled in a ball until I finally expelled the issue. I later learned that if I just curl up into a ball at the beginning and wiggle my butt in the air, the problem expels much faster, and now gas pains are never an issue. Is that considered a life hack? Story 121. To get the airline cabin crew to serve your meal first, pre-request a special meal. Vegetarian, kosher, whatever, they hand out all the specials first thing. By the time most folks get their regular food, you're already done. Story 122. Add dressing to your lettuce only and mix, then add everything else like cheese or bacon or onion or whatever, and mix again. Best salad ever. Story 123. When refilling your car with oil during an oil change, pour the fractional quart liter first. Then if you overpour, you get another shot at it with the second bottle. Story 124. Chew your food thoroughly and for longer for better digestion and satiety with less food. Not necessarily the order here, but the amount. Story 125. If you keep your cereal in a pantry, it's only one trip to the pantry. If you walk over with your bowl, fill it, then walk back. Otherwise, you have to walk over, grab the box, come back, pour it, then walk back over, put box away, and come back again. Yes, I'm lazy. Story 126. Wake up, start the day, check your phone for social media later, and not wake up. Check phone for social media, start the day. Story 127. If you wash up, do the dishes for Americans in the sink and have a little container for the cutlery to dry in, put only spoons in one slot, knives in another, and forks in the other. Then when they are dry, you can just grab a handful of spoons and throw them all in the drawer. Works the same for a dishwasher too. Story 128. Think about my actions before doing them instead of after. This one takes a lot of training, however. Story 129. When reheating something in the microwave, start the timer, then press power, then press 4, 5, or 6, and let the timer run out. You'll get much more even heating of your food, although it may take a while longer. The only things you should be using the max power default setting for is heating water and popping popcorn. Story 130. When making coffee, if you drink it black, as I do, pour a small amount of cold water on the beans first. This prevents the boiling water burning the beans and eradicates the overly bitter taste, leaving you to enjoy a smoother cuppa. Story 131. Rinse your plates bowls as soon as you're done eating. If you let the food dry, it's harder to clean them later. Story 132. Put your underwear on after you get dressed. That way, not only do you look like a superhero, but you also avoid those unwanted body smells in your underwear. You can thank me later. Story 133. Shower then shave. The warm water will open pores properly, preventing ingrown hairs. 200B. If you don't shave, disregard. Story 134. Please hang your laundry right away. It's why your clothes are faded and wrinkled, and mine are crisp and colorful years later. Story 135. Brush your teeth before you shower. Must clarify, I'm a bearded bloke, so it just means I deal with the foamy, dribbly mess while I'm washing my beard anyway. Story 136. Write the email before you type in the addresses of the people you are sending it to. If it is a reply, delete the reply to addresses and type the email. By doing that, you won't send the unfinished email by mistake, and you will have a chance to proofread it before sending it. Story 137. I don't think this is exactly what you asked, but the other day I just dumped the silverware from the dishwasher right into the drawer. I didn't separate it. It's all clean, and since I can see I can choose the utensil I need with no fuss. I like this. It means one less drudge task of separating the forks, knives, and spoons. Tiny in the grand scheme, but honestly, it's a win for me. Story 138. Girls, do your hair the night before, such as flat iron or curl it, so it saves you time in the morning. Story 139. When tasked with a large number of chores, do the easy ones first, then do the hard but quick ones, then do the tedious ones. This way, if you fail to finish all of the tedious chores, you still got a lot accomplished. Story 140. That alarm you wake up to, don't you dare press snooze. Simply get out of bed and then turn it off. FFS, you're getting out of bed anyways. No point in delaying the inevitable. Story 141. Wash your dishes while cooking your meals. Obviously not the plate, silverware, but everything else. Turns a mountain of dishes into something more manageable. Story 142. Press the door close button on the elevator before pressing your floor. The elevator's not going anywhere until the doors are closed, so get that going ASAP and use what would be dead time to select your floor. Story 143. So every year my dad and I sit down around Christmas and figure out my monthly income bills, so I can figure out a good amount to automatically deposit into my savings when I get paid. It's great because it forces me to stick to a budget and also controls impulsive spending. It works a lot better than saving at the end of the month. Story 144. Prepare everything you're cooking beforehand. Seasonings, veggies, meat, oil, etc. Clean dishes as you finish using them. All this makes the work a lot easier. You get done making that big impressive meal for your so-date. No need to clean up a big mess after. Just rinse off some plates and enjoy the praise. Story 145. There was a pro tip on Reddit a couple months ago that suggested doing something productive, such as a small chore immediately after getting up. This gives you a feeling of productivity that often helps you roll into the rest of your day with a get-shoot-done attitude. Weekdays are all about work, so I usually don't have a problem, but on the weekends I've been trying it with some decent results. I stumble to the kitchen to make coffee and then do dishes while I'm waiting for the coffee to brew. So far it's been good. Makes it much easier to avoid getting stuck spinning through Reddit or Instagram all morning. Story 146. Shampoo hair, rinse hair, condition hair, soap body, rinse hair and body. I used to soap my body before doing anything hair-related. Such a waste of time, and the conditioner doesn't get a chance to settle in. Answer. I have a kind of weird reason for doing this. When I was a little kid, I used to wash my hair, first thinking that all the germs from my hair would run down to my face. Then I would wash my face and the germs would slide down to my body. Finally, I would wash my body and all the germs would wash away down the drain. It always stuck with me to do it in that order now that I'm in my 20s. Story 147. I always take my morning shoot right before getting in the shower. Saves time and ultimately leaves you with a cleaner butt for the day. Story 148. Mise en place. Meaning before you even think about cooking or turning on the stove, make sure all your ingredients are prepped. This makes cooking a lot easier and much faster. Also, instead of using a bunch of bowls, get a big tray. Makes cleaning up so much easier. Also, try to clean as you go. It's easier to wash dishes while still wet instead of letting food cake on. There will be moments where you're just waiting around instead of actually cooking, and utilizing those minutes to do a quick cleanup makes all the difference in the world. Answer. This is super clutch. I used to think that using the extra dishes to do this would be more trouble than it's worth, but it is 100 not. I stick everything into an appropriate size bowl, and then when it comes time to add it, I can just chuck it in, like I'm on a cooking show or one of those Instagram GIFs. The extra cleanup is marginal, and now I don't have to run around the kitchen trying to find and measure out ingredients like a madman while my onions burn. Story 149. Every day when I get home, I do 30 mins of something positive. Aside from my normal cleaning routine I have, just take 30 mins while you're still up and active from just getting home to do something you don't regularly do. Sweep, clean the baseboards, pick up debris outside, just anything. You will be surprised how much it helps. Story 150. Not sure if it's been said, but a dentist friend of mine told me to use mouthwash before brushing my teeth because the mouthwash is more likely to rinse away the higher concentration of fluoride from your toothpaste. The order he recommended was floss, mouthwash, brush with no rinse afterwards. Story 151. If you're moving, pack an overnight bag just like you're going away for the weekend. Changes of clothes, socks, and underwear for a couple of days, toiletries, stuff to read, phone charger, snacks, etc. That way, if you don't get around to unpacking your boxes with clothes or bathroom toiletries on that first day, you won't have to go crazy tearing through all of your boxes to find your toothbrush in a clean shirt. Story 152. Thoroughly clean your home before leaving for vacation. Coming back to a clean house is a great ending to a vacation instead of coming back and being thrust back into regular life as soon as you walk in the door. Story 153. Don't start reading email as soon as you sit down to work. Take a few minutes to get settled in and get whatever you remember off of memory done, then read your email. Story 154. When sending an important email to someone, fill in the to column with their email address last. That way you can't accidentally send it before you're ready. Double check that your attachments are there. Feel less anxious about sending the email or generally screwing up. Story 155. Add the attachment to an email first. Most people address the email and type the body first, which can lead to forgetting to add the attachment. Story 156. Floss in the morning as part of the morning routine. You're less likely to skip it like at night when you're tired. Story 157. When at a potluck, eat dessert first. The line is non-existent while everyone fills a plate with the main course. By the time you're done with pie, the line for the main course is reasonable, and you've already had pie. Story 158. It sounds simple, but honestly, putting the cream before I pour my coffee so it stirs itself. You don't need a spoon. Story 159. I used to keep a little things to-do list of shoot that takes like 5 seconds that I never got around to doing. Great way to stop procrastinating and feel productive. Story 160. Do the task before adding it to your to-do list. Sometimes the task doesn't warrant writing down and can be resolved more quickly if you just do it. Story 161. If you are beating meat and don't have tissues around, you can just come on your belly and clean it up with your underpants and go to sleep. But remember to change it in the morning and go for a shower. Story 162. When planning on drinking a lot of adult beverage over hydrate just a little bit and only drink water the day before, you'll know you are hydrated well enough if your pee is perfectly clear. This will help prevent a hangover. Story 163. You have to make coffee every morning, right? And you waste a spoon every day. Wouldn't want to reuse the cream spoon on soup or something. Gotta throw it away. So pour the cream in first, then add the coffee. Pre-mix coffee every time. Story 164. Fill your mouth with water before popping the pill in. That way there's no semi-dry surface for the pill to stick to. It's especially useful for chalky or large pills. Story 165. Do your day's dishes before you go to bed. It sucks. You'll dislike it. But by God, your kitchen will stay 100s cleaner, and it's worth it. Story 166. When getting out of a pool or something that has to do with water on a bathing suit, just wrap a towel around the wet stop, tight and then squat or sit down on a low chair for about 20-30 seconds. Get up, and then your swimsuit is a tiny bit wet or dry. Story 167. At work every day, I would use a little straw to stir up my coffee and creamer, but this wastes plastic every day. And what if there aren't straws left? So I figured out to add the creamer first, then pouring the coffee will mix it. Story 168. Prep for your day the night before. Pack lunches, prepare the coffee pot, lay out outfits, pack your work bag, etc. Then, knock out as many remedial tasks as you can to start your day, i.e. shower, dress, make bed, make breakfast, clean kitchen, answer emails, finish tasks from the day before. Keeping your mind and life organized are a great way to increase productivity and reduce stress. Story 169. For men, shave your face after a shower. Your skin and hairs are softer and exfoliated, assuming you wash your face with more than a bar of Irish Spring, and makes shaving a much easier and less painful endeavor. To add to that, watch some videos on proper shave techniques. Turned what used to be a tedious and unpleasant part of my day into something I look forward to now. And ditch the canned gel screams and get something not made of 75 household cleaners and petroleum products. Story 170. When you're sitting, shoot on the toilet, prepare your toilet paper squares in your underwear so that when it's time to wipe, you have one less step in the process. Volunteer with the free time it creates and tell people how you found the time. Story 171. Oh my. When cooking a meal, while it's cooking, wash the dishes that you no longer need. That way you'll have maybe one pot pan tray to wash at the end. 100 times better than doing the dishes after having 3x the recommended serving. Story 172. If you brush your teeth and then drink the orange juice, you unlock Toad. My uncle works at Nintendo, so I would know you should do it. Do it. Drink the toothpaste juice, bro. Do it. Story 173. If you're waiting to board an airplane, get your boarding pass out and keep it in your hand if you're using a paper ticket. If it's a mobile ticket, make sure you're logged into whatever it is that you're using to store it. Less of an issue if you're using something like a mobile wallet. The things that you plan to keep in your person during the flight, such as headphones, extra batteries, medication, laptop, get them out of your bag before boarding the plane while waiting. If you don't plan to wear it, take your coat jacket to your hands before boarding. Proceed to board and sit immediately. Story 174. Mine is clean out the refrigerator and pantry and do a brief inventory of what's there and isn't before you go grocery shopping, not after. When I started doing this, I cut down on partied too hard time and partied too hard food because I wasn't now running to the store and spending money when we already had the item buried in a back shelf or had leftovers or the makings of a meal on hand. Also eat before you go to the store, not after. You won't be as tempted to overspend because you're hungry. Story 170. When baking sweet bread or any kind of sweet biscuit, if you want it dense, compact, and flavorful, add all of the dry ingredients first and mix them. Then add the eggs and the liquid ingredients. Mix well until homogeneous and then bake. But if you want it all light and fluffy and delicate, separate the egg whites from the eggs and whisk them into a nice firm meringue and proceed with all of the other ingredients as usual in a separate container. Once you have both mixes ready, pour the meringue little by little and incorporate it into your regular mix. Bake once ready. Story 176. Wear an elastic band and snap it on your wrist whenever you do something you don't like. Life hack to break a habit. I guess it requires wearing a band, but that's it. Swearing, for example. Story 177. Double or at least add a 20-minute extension the time for commute to schoolwork, anything. You still have the same free time. You're just putting it in a different order. Works wonders on stress levels in a lot of cases. Story 178. If you do a house clean every week, do it on a Thursday so you can enjoy the Friday evening and whole weekend. Story 179. When I'm making iced coffee at a gas station, I like to put the sugar in the cup first, then put a small amount on hot coffee into the cup first and swirl it around. I usually use the raw sugar and this helps melt it immediately. Then I fill the cup with ice and the cold coffee, adding milk last. It makes sure the sugar is fully mixed and not a sugary slurry at the end of the coffee. Story 180. Shower before bed instead of in the morning. Your sheets stay cleaner, and since you're naked and clean, if you have a partner, you're probably more likely to get a little bit of action. Story 181. I drink herbal tea at night. While the water boils, I wash the day's dishes, I live alone, and wipe down the counters. Go to bed with one less thing to worry about. Story 182. Wash clean your hands before you do anything that involves touching your face, including applying sunscreen. Story 183. If you have a red-pink lipstick, don't bother buying blush. Dab a little on your cheeks, blend, ta-da! Anywhere from 426 saved, edit. Since I was thinking about it, mascara as eyeliner, liquid lipstick as eyeliner, cream eyeshadow. Make sure it's a formula that fully dries down. Bronzer as eyeshadow, and brow powder if yours are light enough. Brown eyeshadow as contour, bronzer, brows. Pink eyeshadow as blush, and vice versa. If you have a shimmery white eyeshadow complementary to your skin tone, you can skip highlighter. clean spoolie mascara brush, clear lip balm, brow gel. I think you can use aloe vera gel as well. Use conditioner in place of shaving cream. I find I get a much closer shave. Small angled paintbrush is usually cheaper than a lip brush. And on brushes, fan paintbrush instead of a cosmetic one, angled paintbrush for eyeliner. I wouldn't recommend this for larger face brushes as I haven't tested this with them. Pretty sure this is a commonly known one, but baby shampoo instead of brush cleaner. Washcloth in place of a color switch. This ended up being a lot longer than I planned, but I hope it helps. Story 184. When you lock your front door before going on holiday, do something weird. Turn the key, do a little eliminate bill 1-inch punch to the wall, rattle the letterbox, ring the doorbell twice, polish the door number with your sleeve, anything, just something distinctive. Later on, when you think, did I lock the door? Yes, I remember ringing the doorbell 4 times. Did I pack my passport? Yes, I remember shouting, get out of my swamp after putting it in my bag. Basically, you lock your house every day the same way and ends up being on autopilot and forgettable. Story 185. When you would like to buy something, in most cases, if you leave it in your basket for a few days, you often get an email about a discount. It's the company's way of encouraging you to buy something. Story 186. Went through all the comments and saw that nobody mentioned anything about creamer and coffee. So let me tell you something. Story 180. Floss your teeth before you brush them, especially before bed. This might be common knowledge for some, but I was never really taught this or to even floss growing up. But it really makes a difference if you do it in that order. Story 188. This barely counts as a life hack, but do your homework when you get home, and not after you spend hours watching TV, going on social media, etc. When you do finally sit back and entertain yourself, you won't have the homework chewing away at the back of your mind the whole time. Story 189. Put creamer home in the cup, then add coffee. This way it mixes it up automatically and you don't need to stir. Story 190. If you are always late for work, here is the best life hack to impress your boss with a life-changing new habit. When getting ready in the morning, stop wasting time looking for a spoon and stirring needlessly. Just pour the creamer first and then add the coffee after. It will mix without needing a spoon. Boom! Now you have gained 5 to go to work on time and finally get that darn raise. Story 191. Request for a life hack. How do you kids put your laundry away in a manner that isn't the absolute worst? We had a thing called clothes mine going on for a while wherein clean clothes were just sort of in the laundry room. I'm cleaning it out today and hanging stuff up, and it sucks, jerk. But we want to adopt in a couple of years, and I'm fairly certain agencies won't accept clothes mine as a cultural thing. So I'm trying to figure out a better way now so we will be in practice, you know? So what's your putting away clothes hack? Story 192. Brush your teeth while in the shower. No wasting extra water and can get as messy as needed because you're already in the shower. Story 193. For me, it was realizing that if I put the creamer in the cup before I pour the coffee, it'll mix it for me and I don't have to waste a coffee stirrer at the office. Story 194. Each human being has an experience of living a life without possibly knowing how an interaction, action, decision, influence, or any experience they have, which influences them to a larger or smaller extent, will impact upon their own future. One example in my own life, and this came down to a time scale of seconds, is that if I were 5 minutes earlier or later in leaving my place of work, some 26 years ago, would mean that I would not have met the lady whom would become my wife, and, if not dead, for the sake of a few minutes, I would not be sat in this house typing this at this moment. And it doesn't really matter if a person says, well, how do you know that you wouldn't have met your wife at some later point and your destiny is already written? A person saying this misses the point that it takes an absolutely countless number of influences, happenings, delays stopping to tie a shoelace, even pausing to blink. I said 5 minutes either way of not being in that place at that time would have resulted in me not tapping the buttons on this computer. Some 26 years later, my wife is no longer living, though we have a daughter whom is very much alive. Since being a child, every so often I would take a different route through town, or rather oddly wait for an extra minute before rushing out to play. As I did rush about, who knows, that conscious alteration, however small, may have put me on the main road at a busier time, and as I carefully crossed the road, 1 minute later, I held up a driver and so affected his or timeline for the rest of their lives. I guess folks will either understand what I am saying or not. But if you have gotten this far reading these words, then I have altered your day in some way of which that teeny tiny influence has an unknown domino effect. I quite like this whole scenario. In getting involved in writing too much, here I have burned my lunch. So my plans for the day remain the same. But when I join the crowds doing their shopping, I may meet another lady who may become my wife, or conversely, not meet that particular lady. I feel good that although I cannot prove or disprove that I can alter my destiny, I feel really good at the idea of randomness. That's it. Thanks for the thought-provoking question. I can't tell you how many times I've stood in the grocery aisle staring at the milk, trying to remember if I have a full carton or just a splash left. Taking a quick photo is so much faster than writing a detailed list, and it has saved me from buying a fourth bottle of ketchup more times than I'd like to admit. Story 195. Paint your nails starting with your pinky nail and ending with your thumbnail. Pinky, ring, middle, index, and finally thumb on each hand, in other words. That way you don't have to reach over previously painted nails and possibly ruin your manicure in progress in order to work on the next nail. Story 196. I saw a Reddit post one time where a bunch of commenters pointed out that if you put the creamer in the cup and then pour the coffee, it mixes itself. Story 197. I always apply a ton of conditioner into my hair before going swimming in a chlorine pool. It makes mare hair not as rough and it doesn't break easily. Story 198. So there's a really cool trick my dad taught me a while ago. It's surprisingly simple. Just put the creamer for your coffee in the mug before you pour the coffee and it basically stirs itself. I haven't washed a spoon in 3 years because of this. Story 199. Put your keys in the same pocket every time. Saves time fumbling around and searching every pocket you have. Story 200. Washing my body and face after rinsing out hair conditioner significantly improved my face and back acne. Story 201. Not sure how much this counts as changing the order, but get the hell out of the 9 to 5 as much as you can with your employer. Work 8 to 4 instead or 10 to 6. I work 7 to 3, 30 half-hour lunch. I see basically no traffic, and I don't have to find time to take care of things like trips to the bank that are restricted to normal business hours. I've got plenty of time every afternoon to take care of stuff. Answer: this works great in small towns. Where I'm from, morning rush hour is from 6:11 and afternoon rush hour is from 2:07. There's no escaping the rat race. Real life hack. Live in the city and get a job outside it. You'll always be against the flow. And as a bonus, you live where everything is a quick walk away. You save time and money, except you don't save money because $2,000 month rent is not fun. Story 202. Floss, then brush your teeth. Get those food particles away from your teeth so that the toothpaste can do its job. If you floss after you brush, you are just cleaning food particles, then removing them and leaving unbrushed tooth area in its wake. Floss, then brush. Story 203. If you have a large sink when cooking or baking, do your mixing and measuring in or over the kitchen sink for super easy cleanup. Story 204. Eat breakfast before you get dressed. I know a lot of people do that, but my parents would always insist I be dressed before I went downstairs to eat. It would take me an hour to get dressed for school because I was so tired and kept falling back asleep. I swap into the orders in uni and now get dressed in 15 minutes. I think getting up and walking around, all the rummaging through cupboards, and of course, caffeine really helps. Story 205. Instead of logging out of your work computer at the end of the day, restart it. That way all the updates get installed while you don't need it, and the computer gets a daily reboot without you needing to wait for it to come back up. Edit. This assumes that you're not expected to shut it down at end of day. Story 206. Just learn when to cook what. Don't throw your meat in the pan without having started the timer on your potatoes. Turn on the oven before assembling your oven bake. Easy things like that will make cooking run way more smoothly. Story 207. Clean as you cook. I usually make sure the dishwasher is empty, if you have one. But as you use something and it's empty, if you can, wash it right away. By the time it come to clean up dinner, I've put most of the things I've used in the dishwasher and only have the plates and utensils left. Or just a small amount of things. Story 208. Morning routine. Brush your teeth and pee at the same time. Bask in your extra time. Side effect. After doing this for about 10 years, I have to pee. Every time I brush my teeth. Story 209. How to eat instant ramen like a boss. Snort up broth through nose. Eat hard noodles. Drink boiling water. Smash bowl and pot overhead. Boom. That's the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're interested, I have a second channel. This is Vancher signing off. See you soon.